You know that feeling when everyone else is falling apart and somehow you're the calm one, the one who listens, the one who gives advice, the one who absorbs the tension in the room without adding to it. People come to you when their relationships end, when their plans collapse, when they don't know what to do next, and you show up, you steady your voice, you make space for their emotions. But when something breaks inside you, it goes quiet. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. You'll handle it. You always do. Most people don't notice this about you. They see reliability. They see maturity. They see emotional strength. Sometimes they even admire it. And if they misunderstand you, it's usually in a flattering way. They assume you're unaffected, unshaken, independent, to the point of not needing much from anyone. But what they don't see is the invisible rule you've been living by. Don't add weight to anyone else's shoulders. There's an unspoken belief that the strong person is the one who doesn't talk about their problems, the one who carries things privately, the one who handles it alone. And because you've embodied that role so well, it can feel like stepping out of character to admit you're struggling. This isn't just about personality. This is about the psychology of the strong person who never talks about their problems. And there's more going on here than people realize. From a psychological perspective, strength is often confused with emotional suppression, but they're not the same thing. Studies in emotional regulation show that many people who appear composed under stress aren't feeling less, they're managing more. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain involved in planning and control, works hard to organize emotional responses so they don't spill out in ways that feel disruptive. Over time, this can become automatic. You don't consciously think, I won't share this. Your system simply tightens around the feeling, contains it, files it away. There's also something called self-silencing, a pattern researchers have observed where individuals minimize or withhold their own distress to preserve harmony in relationships. It often shows up in people who are highly attuned to others' needs. Translated into real life, this means you learn to scan the room quickly, to sense who could handle what, to decide whether your truth would create relief or tension. And if there was any doubt, you chose silence. Neuroscience adds another layer. When we grow up in environments where emotions were overwhelming, unpredictable, or dismissed, the nervous system adapts. It learns that expressing vulnerability might lead to chaos, rejection, or being seen as a burden. So it builds a different strategy. Stay composed, stay useful, stay needed. The body remembers what worked. For some, this pattern began early. Maybe you were the mature child, the one adults described as wise beyond your years. Maybe you sensed that your caregivers were already stretched thin. Maybe showing sadness was met with discomfort, or anger was met with punishment, or fear was brushed aside. So you adjusted. You became the easy one, the helper, the stable presence, and it worked. You were praised, trusted, relied upon. The nervous system loves strategies that work. Over time, that adaptation solidified into identity. Not talking about your problems stopped feeling like a choice. It felt like who you are. Even in adulthood, when the original circumstances are long gone, the pattern can remain. Because it once kept relationships intact. It once kept you safe. It's important to say this clearly. This way of coping is not better or worse than being openly expressive. Different people are wired differently. Some regulate by sharing, others regulate by containing. Neither is inherently right. The world needs people who can hold steady in a storm. It also needs people who let the storm be seen. But here's the part that rarely gets talked about. The same strength that allows you to support everyone else can quietly isolate you. When you rarely reveal your struggles, people assume you don't have many. They stop asking deeper questions. They trust that you're fine. And over time, you can start to feel unseen in a very specific way. Not because people don't care, but because you've taught them that you don't need care. There's a paradox here. You're often the safest person in the room, but you may not feel safe being fully known. That doesn't mean you're incapable of vulnerability. It often means vulnerability feels inefficient, unnecessary, even indulgent. You've built competence around handling things internally. Why disrupt the system? Yet the human nervous system is wired for co-regulation. Research on attachment shows that sharing distress with a responsive other can lower physiological stress markers. Heart rate steadies, cortisol drops, the body softens. When you don't speak about what's heavy, your body still carries it, quietly. Sometimes that shows up as fatigue you can't quite explain, or a low-grade tension that never fully disappears, or a subtle resentment when others don't show up for you in the way you show up for them. Not because they're failing you, but because they never realized you needed them to. Nothing about you is broken. If anything, your pattern reveals how deeply you care about stability, about not overwhelming others, about maintaining connection. If you've recognized yourself here, there's more to uncover, not to change who you are, but to understand yourself with the same compassion you so easily offer everyone else. And if this felt familiar, if some part of you quietly nodded while listening, stay with this space. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the parts of yourself that rarely get words. And if this resonated with you, you can leave a like, not for the algorithm, but as a small signal that you're not alone in this. There's more to understand, and we'll take it slowly,